Page 6, Younger Than Springtime. This is from a musical. At the top of the page, they're introducing 5 new notes for the bass clef. They say for the left hand, I disagree. It's for the bass clef. It just happens to be the left hand is playing these notes in this piece. But the left hand doesn't necessarily play those notes. The right hand could play them. And you just need to memorize them. Hopefully you know how to figure them out. I mean, look at the first 3, the C, D, and E. Well, just know that 2 ledger lines below bass clef is a C. So your middle C, you go down 2 octaves, it's that C. If know that one, and it's easy to figure the others out from there. It's kind of a starting point. However, you really should memorize these notes. It's kind of important. And then for the higher notes, the F and F sharp, 1 ledger line above bass clef is middle C. 2 ledger lines would be an E. You should know that, just know that. Well, a space above it is an F. And then F sharp is just a half step. So really, there's only 4 notes you gotta learn, and the F sharp is just part of the F, sort of. A little bit. Use your imagination. However, in this piece, as I said, it'll be the left hand that plays these notes. Doesn't have to be, but alright, Younger Than Springtime. Cut time, oh, that'll be fun. 2/2 time, or 2 beats to a measure, and you're counting half notes. However, when I learn a piece that's in cut time, I change it to 4/4 time first, because it's easier to count it. If I give a quarter note a beat, 4, yeah. And then I can put it back in cut time later on after I know the rhythm and the notes and so forth. So I'm going to talk about this piece as though it's in 4/4 time for now, and we'll change it to cut time later. No sharps and flats. This in the key is C major. If you look at the last measure at the bottom of page 7, you have these notes here. That's a C major chord. That's in C major. Take my word for it, C major. And 1/8 notes and quarter notes and whatever, we can deal with this. You've got 2 endings, the first and second ending at the bottom of page 6. We'll cover that, no big deal. So let's cover the right hand first to make sure we have the fingering and the rhythm and all that down. We're starting here, second finger now here. So really, if you look at because the last note of the first measure is C, your position is actually here. So for hand positions, you got to look at several notes to see what's needed, and you try and accommodate them if you can. Do the best you can. So we're going to be here, not for very long, because we're going to be coming back and forth here. But we're actually going to be moving around. But we're going to start at this hand position. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and rest and. See, now that the second finger comes down. Rest. Just reach down with the thumb to the B. Rest. Stay there. Red. During the rest, they want you to come up here and back into this position with second finger on it. That's fine. We need to go from an E to a C if you look at the next few notes. And that's 6 notes. We only got 5 fingers, so we have to accommodate that. So we're starting here and then thumb. That way we can cover all the notes we need. So it's 2 and. If you're doing the C major scale like you're supposed to, this should not be a problem. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Now they want you to come here. Here. No, let's not do that. I don't want to go from here to here. I want to connect this. Don't worry about these slur lines, okay? I'll argue about those later. Just right now, it's just try to connect the notes, and I want to connect the A, the last note in the second line, to the half note. That's the melody. I want that all connected. So, we accommodate it. In the last measure of the second line, you're here. For the last note, rather than third, scrunch up and use 4th or 5th. 4th is easier. And now 1 and 3 for the half note, and then 1 and 2. Connect this, and then for the first ending, then you can go here because you have to play it again so you can switch fingers. So it's here to here. Thumb goes down. and connect that. Like so. So again, starting with the last measure of the second line, you're here, 1 and 2, fourth finger, now 1 and 3, 1 and 2, now 1 and 4, what they've got there. Like so. Then you'd repeat and go back up. Well, let's go on. Let's start with the first measure of the last line. This on page 6, you're in here. And you can go ahead and use third finger there for the second ending. And then thumb. Because you're there, why not? Then going 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Remember, a dotted half note's the same as 3/4 notes. Just memorize that. So in here, right now, it's getting 3 counts. So this is fun. And for the most part, that's the piece, except for the last line on page 7. Let's look at it. Now, again, the last measure of the fourth line there, you're here. Last time we had this, we used fourth finger because we needed to come down. Well, this time we don't. We go up. So we can just leave the fingering alone. And I recommend you leave the third finger on that and go here. 1, 3, 2. Because the A and the D are tied. They got little curved lines. Those are ties. You got a lot of curved lines going right there. So you're going to hold them down. You don't play them again. You're simply going from the here to here. And I can cross over with the here, like so. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's here, and then for the next measure, it's an F natural. So in the second measure, here you can do a 1, 2, 5 or 1, 3, 5, whichever. But then the F and the D are both tied. All you're going to do is go from the A to the B. If it's easier for you to go from 1 to 2, that's fine. But don't shy away from these awkward fingers. We need to use them. So if you can, it's good at practice. And then the last measure, go ahead and come on down. And that C is tied all the way to the end. So hold it down. Now that C is tied, and you just add the E to it. So we have 3 notes down. So the last 2 measures. Here, we got those down. Left hand. The left hand has some broken chords and scales and whatnot going on. You have a whole note here. We got 2 voices. And then they sing second finger. That's fine. You can use thumb if you want. But when you get to the second line, second measure, you need second finger. So until then, I don't care if you use second finger or thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now make sure you're playing rest for the upper note, but hold that down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. And then the second measure of the second line, it's not a whole note anymore. So it's 1, 2, 3, and then third finger for the first ending. Let's go to page 7. And we get these running passages. Quarter notes. Reach up. Reach up. Now once you play the E, you can come back down here. Then you do that some more. Next line, third measure. This is an F natural here. And we're just going to go down, follow their fingering, 4, 1. Again, if you've been doing the scales, this should not be difficult. 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then you got to come down here. Well, won't that be fun? Let's look at that. Because this is a pretty good jump to go from here to here. There's no rest or anything. The right hand isn't moving, so you don't have to worry about moving the right hand, but this left hand, we can make this a little less difficult. And that is, during this coming down, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and instead of fourth finger, put thumb on that. The reason is because now you're a lot closer to where you want to be. So that when you stretch out a little bit, it's not nearly as far. So again, the last 2 measures of the second line. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And again, Whether you use thumb or second is up to you, but you need second in the next line because it's what we've had before. Third finger, and then 1 and 2. So you're coming from here to here. And you can keep 5 and 2 for the last measure, or you can do 5 and 1 for it. It's up to you. Put the hands together. What could possibly go wrong here? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Make sure you play these rests. Be quiet. Third measure. And then you repeat that. Let's go on. Let's go to the top of page 7. Where you hear, you have these are next to each other. Now, look out going from the first line to the second line on page 7, because you're here. The left hand needs that note. So, you're going to separate each of these. They have 2 neutral lines on them. I'll come back to that. I don't really agree with that, but just get off of so you can play that note. That's pretty much it. The trickiest parts are covered. Then once we do that, you can put in these slurs or these dynamics. I don't agree with the dynamic. This is an arrangement. But let's go ahead and learn it the way it's written first, and we'll talk about it. Except for these slurs. They want you to connect these. That's fine, I do it anyway. But when you get to the end of the second line, here, it's June are the gentle lips. You don't want to break in that. It's all together. So it's all that should be connected. It's all one sentence, all one musical sentence. So in the right hand, connect this. In the left hand, there's nothing really marked, so connect the left hand notes. Starting with the second measure of the second line, you're here, connect these. So forth, whatever. Now when you get to the top of page 7, connect now that's staccato there in the last measure. And then just try and do the best you can with these. I don't know why I do know why there's 2 neutral, but in my opinion you don't need them. Just play the notes. Don't play them short. No. And the second line, connect them. And then you go lift up in the right hand. It's like a breath. So there. We don't necessarily want like a breath in the left hand. That's why we're going here. You're going to have a little silence, you have to, but still, it's not like the right hand. It's a definite breath. So to go from the second line, you're here, lift up, and then try not to lift up any. Hold on to that as long as you can. So forth. So on the slurs, and then the last line, do the best you can with half notes. Connect them as best you can. You can't really connect them all the way, but that's all right. We don't want any breath, like taking a breath between them. Connect them as best you can. They could have put a slur over the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned. Now, at the top of the page 7, again, I told you to play them connected. Well, keep in mind, when they don't give you any markings, it's kind of up to you. So when you get into the point where you can start interpreting it, maybe you want to try them disconnected in the left hand. Now in the second line, third measure, now it's slurred. You don't disconnect these. You do, but when they don't tell you anything, it's up to you. I think it sounds better connected, but it's a personal thing. You experiment with the interpretation like that at the end. After you've learned it and you're getting into the music, then you experiment with interpreting it. And that's where you try out these different things, these different articulations in how you play the notes, and dynamics too. Now for dynamics, these dynamics are suggestions, and they apply to the melody. In this case, it's the top note in the right hand. Moderately soft, sort of soft, whatever you think. Left hand has to be very soft. Keep the left hand way in the background. In the second line, second measure, there's a little crescendo they snuck in there where you're going to go up to moderately loud for the third line. There's not a lot of difference between moderately soft, moderately loud. You're going to go up just a little bit. So I suggest for the second measure, second line, stay where you're at. Now you can go up a little bit. Now you're moderately loud. So you have to pace it out. If you don't, you'll be moderately loud by the third beat of that measure where you started. I'll be moderately loud there. And no, I don't hold back. It's not like getting louder on every note. It's like getting louder maybe on every measure. Or you have to experiment and try it out. So stay it down. And that's for the right hand. This melody, keep the left hand in the background. And there's first ending, there's a dim. You see that D-I-M, the little thing? Gets softer. You just calm down, like so. Then in the second ending there, you're moderately soft. Moderately soft in the right hand, and very soft in the left, and you're going to crescendo up to loud. The first note in the last measure, the first line. Well, there's a lot of uhs on that. So you're going up to loud. Right there, that's loud. Left hand, keep it in the background. And then all of a sudden back down to moderate soft. Can you do that? Good luck. Crescendo back up to loud. And there's a retardando there in the end of the second line. Slow down. And then the third line, you take off again, moderately soft. So just follow the dynamic. This ends loud at the bottom. You're loud here. I want to hear this note all the way through the last two measures. All this other stuff. I want to hear that all the time I'm playing this other gobbledygook down here. So this other stuff, that's not loud. It's more like moderately loud, going down to moderately soft, because I got to stay under that note. That's hard to do, but it's good exercise. It takes control. I encourage you to try that. Then speed. All right, this is where we put it back and cut time. We feel it in 2. 1, 2, 1, and 2, and. Retardando there, slow down. And then all tempo, in parentheses, take off again. Now there's a couple ways of interpreting the all tempo. You have to experiment and decide what you like. One way is to just take off again. So you slow down. You just take off. Another way is to speed up or accelerate quickly. Don't take more than a couple beats to get there, but you start slower and then speed up back into it. So it's more of a gradually going, and that's interpretation, and it's up to you what you try them both out and then see what you think. So the last 3 lines of page 7 is here. Something like that. Slow down. You have to get past the mechanics and the feeling of it, get into the music, and then you start thinking as you're interpreting this. Do I want them connected? At the top of page 7. Or do I want them connected, or whatever? You experiment with that. You make it yours. As long as you don't violate what the music is telling you to do, you can do about anything you want. This is an arrangement. Once you've learned it the way it's written, rearrange it if you want to. If there's something here that isn't working for you, fix it, change it, alter it, whatever. Make it yours.